What's going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It is time for Nick at Night, my weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. I did read some books, not a whole lot of them, but we had some bangers this week. Stick around. All right, before we get into the books, I wanted to say thank you to all the supporters and fans and subs out there. If you haven't considered subbing up yet, go down below and hit that sub button, hit the like button, check out the other videos. I really do appreciate it, so thank you very much for watching. Let's get into the big two as we always do. We're going to start over in Marvel, just a single Marvel book this week. It was Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. This was actually written by two different people, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, art by Cameron Canero, and we had color by Nolan Woodard. So Sentinel of Liberty, this is another Captain America book. We had our Sam Wilson-centric Captain America book about a month ago, it feels like. And that one was received, in a decent way, I think. I think this book is more classic Captain America. We do have Steve Rogers, with the shield, wearing the classic uniform, doing classic Captain America stuff. So I have a feeling this one's going to be more well received just because it has that nostalgic classic feel to it. So with that being said, how was it? I will say that the overall story is pretty generic. We do have Captain trying to kind of be more grounded, be more rooted, kind of going back to basics in a way. And he's fighting a somewhat low-level threat at the moment, although that threat is expanding, and we're trying to understand what that means. We have another secret organization trying to overthrow him, trying to plant seeds of doubt in his own mind. And they're using a pretty popular American holiday to wreak some havoc. So again, story-wise, it is pretty generic. I think I've seen this before somewhere. It has, even if you're just familiar with the MCU movies, this kind of plot we've seen before. So there's nothing super original with the story, but it was executed pretty well. I will say I was a little bit worn out with the inner monologue. There's a lot of inner dialogue here that it just kind of wears you down as the book goes on, I think. And then also, I would say the art and the coloring are not very solid. There's moments where it works, and you can tell when they took their time. But there's just not a lot of creativity in the color department, and maybe even the inking and shading department, I would say. So style-wise, it didn't blow me away. It was an interesting story overall, but not very original. But with that said, I still had a good time reading it, and I am interested to see where the story goes. I think the villain that they introduced, and maybe the plot behind them, or the reason, or maybe the plan that they introduced in here is intriguing, and Winter Soldier's in here, and that's really fun as well. So I think there's enough in here for me to be interested in the next issue. So I think of the two Captain America books that came out recently, I think Sentinel of Liberty is more interesting in my opinion, but I want to know what you guys are thinking down below if you read both of them, so let me know. All right, we're going to hop over into some DC books next. We got Sandman Universe Nightmare Country. This is issue number 3 from James Tynion and several different writers, or several different artists rather, depending on which page you're on. We're going to go over this one next. I will say this is a pretty interesting run. As someone that's new to Sandman, I appreciate some of the moments they take where they explain kind of the overall universe. They went over the library in the first couple issues. They introduced the Corinthian, and they talk about his backstory in sections of this book. And I love the art change depending on the topic or the segment inside the book that they're covering at the moment. I do like all that different art change in here. This book is really fun. They had some interesting people that were introduced. There's like this eccentric millionaire who's just really bored and enjoys chaos. And he's kind of been wrapped into this whole picture right now, which I thought was pretty fun. I like the way that he thinks. And I like he's just kind of searching for chaos and things, and thinks that, people in agony, people in misery have interesting stories to tell. So he's now in the mix, which I thought was pretty cool. We have our two killers. We have Mr. Agony and Mr. Ecstasy, I think they're called. And they are actually hunting down our main character, and they have a pretty crazy plan to get with her. And they are continuing the hunt for our main character. They've been ordered to take her out, and she escaped last time. And so they're pretty much doing whatever it takes to now get her attention. So I do like everything I'm reading in this book. The art is great. I love the way it shifts, like I said before, depending on the section of the story that we're telling. I did enjoy that. I think James Tynion's perfect for writing a story like this, with as much history and high concept subject matter. I think he's perfect for that, having prepped with Department of Truth and the nice house on the lake. So jumping into something like this seems very natural for a writer like that. And he's teamed up with some great artists as well. So again, I don't know how this would compare to the older versions or the other runs of Sandman, but I'm liking what I'm reading so far. So yeah, this is always a book I'm looking forward to every time it comes out. Sandman Nightmare Country, issue number 3. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Next book we have this week is Jurassic League issue number 2, written and drawn by Juan Gideon and Daniel Warren Johnson, but Juan Gideon's actually on the art. Mike Spicer is on the colors, and I seem to be following Mike Spicer wherever he goes because every book he touches is brilliant, and I'm always excited to see him on the coloring for anything. Now, it is a little bit throwing people off because Daniel Warren Johnson's not on the art, Juan Gideon is, and he's also credited for a writing portion on this as well, so that's interesting. But we do get some Daniel Warren Johnson covers, so we take what we can get. So story-wise, again, this is kind of following the Jurassic versions of our Trinity, our DC Trinity. We have Superman, we have Batman, and we have Wonder Woman. Now they're all taken and they're put into this like Jurassic kind of a world. So all their names have like Asaurus and things like that at the end. So it's pretty playful. It's pretty fun. There's a great mood, great atmosphere that they're painting in here. They introduce some really powerful villains in here that are taking out the human race. And the Superman character, being that he kind of grew up in a society full of humans, the origin story is very similar. He crash lands, these humans raise him, he learns to love them and take care of them, so he doesn't appreciate these demons coming over and taking everybody out. The Batman character is also on his little revenge mission from the death of his parents, trying to find the Joker as well. So this is kind of like their meeting, when the two kind of collide here and their paths become aligned momentarily. And also, this is a great issue where Wonder Woman's introduced a little bit more as well, and it kind of develops the whole Trinity aspect that we've been waiting for this entire time. So, great book. I like how they've taken the classic DC tropes that the Trinity are, and they're adding this dinosaur element in here. Again, it's not Daniel Warren Johnson art, but I think Juan Gideon's style is in that same vein. And of course, when you have Mike Spicer doing the coloring on here, it ties everything together pretty well. I enjoyed this issue way more than I enjoyed issue number 1. Issue number 1 felt like we jumped right in. They introduced a lot of things right away. It seemed like there was a lot of fan service right up front. And then in this issue here, they slowed down a little bit and they kind of brought our Trinity together. It's only 6 issues. We're issue number 2 right now. I don't know where this goes necessarily. We have some endgame villains introduced in here too. So we're going to be heading in that direction, and it's going to be fun to see all the steps between now and then. So Jurassic League, issue number 2. If you didn't dig issue number 1, give number 2 a try and see if it changes your mind overall, because I think it will. It did for me. Check it out. Let me know what you thought. So that's it with DC books. We're going to jump over to some indie books. We're going to start with Bill and Ted Roll the Dice from Opus Comics. And I've never heard of this creative team. We have James Amos and art by Wayne Nichols. And I got to admit, I was a little bit hesitant when I bought this book. Obviously, I bought it because of our love and affection for Bill and Ted. So station everybody out there for sure. I got this just because of that. I didn't have high expectations, but I got to tell you what, this book was actually really, really fun to read. I think it captured the essence and the feel and everything of Bill and Ted, so I really was digging that. So where this kind of takes place, from what I gather right now, is it takes place before Face the Music. So after like Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey and everything, they are still waiting to be the best there ever was. They saw this glimpse into the future that they were going to unite the world in harmony and everything, but they haven't gotten there yet. They haven't started practicing. They're waiting around, wondering what's going on. The babes have dumped them, so they're really depressed about that. They're sick of sitting around waiting for them to be something, and they need to focus on their goals. And so I thought that was pretty funny. But the basic premise here is they actually make their way down into hell, and they kind of strike a deal with the devil in a way, and they have to go on this quest to get really, really good. And so they're fighting all these monsters and things like that, and they're actually playing like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of a role, picking a character, picking some skills and things like that, and they're working their way through the dungeons. So I think it's pretty awesome. I would say art-wise, it's really fun. I didn't expect a whole lot from the art, but I think it captured the characters really well. The scenery and everything is pretty interesting. The coloring and things are great. And so there's a lot of variety in the paneling as well. So I think creatively speaking, I think it was done really well. I think, again, it captured the essence of Bill and Ted, which I was really hoping. And it's, difficult to capture that appropriately and not be super corny. And I think they nailed it right here. I'll flash a little page of them kind of talking to the devil, just to give you an idea what that art style looks like there. So Bill and Ted Roll the Dice. Roll the Dice, it's more of like a D&D reference. And I totally get it after reading this book. So way better than I thought it was going to be. So if you're kind of on the fence about this, you can pick it up for a novelty reason. But it's actually a pretty decent read, and we'll see where it goes from there. Let me know what you guys thought about it. All right, let's jump over into some Image Comics next. We have Seven Sons. They're calling it Part 1, again from a creative team that I'm not really familiar with. We have Robert Wyndham and Calvin Mao, and we have art by Jay Lee. So we have the great artist Jay Lee on here, and we have June Chung on the colors. This book was actually previewed in another Image book about a month or two ago, and it was the first couple opening pages, and it really kind of grabbed my interest. It's essentially this Las Vegas kind of a place, but it's all wrapped around Christianity, the coming of Christ, the rebirth of Christ, and they've completely commercialized it. A New Christ Taking Mantle is like the Super Bowl event of the year. There's millions of people flocking to this location, and of course, they're selling hats and t-shirts and memorabilia and keychains and all sorts of stuff. I would say artistically, there's this real creepy vibe to the main characters that are on here. There's like this lineage of Christ-like characters. There was this miracle that they talk about in here, and so there's also these different organizations that want to stop all this. You can imagine this is the main religion that's kind of taken over the world right now. So all these other competing religions are going to strike back and see if they can take down this new religion that's taking over everything. And so they do a couple of little flashbacks here and there. They actually go over the origin of these Christ-like characters, like I said, and they did it in a really great way. I thought this book was really, really fun. Artistically, Jay Lee is amazing in here. I loved all the different colors. There's a style and a grittiness and like a sharpness to everything that just makes it really, really fun, I think. I'll give you a preview of what you can expect art-wise in this book. It's got some beautiful double-page spreads in here. So I really, really was digging the premise of it in the preview that we saw in the other Image book the other month. And so I would say that this first issue really took that premise, blew it out, and it was a heck of a read. And I feel like there's a lot to this world that they're going to explore further in this run. So I'm really excited for that. And again, based on what I've read so far in this issue, I think there's some really cool places this book could go. This book has the potential to be an amazing run and a one-of-a-kind run. I haven't read too many things like this or drawn like this. And so I think it's going to be great. Seven Sons Part 1. If you haven't checked this out, you're a little bit on the fence for it, I would check it out if you want something a little bit different. And let me know what you guys think. But this was a killer read this week. All right, sticking with Image, we have Do a Powerbomb, Image Comics, Daniel Warren Johnson, and Mike Spicer. I feel like I just talked about these two over in Jurassic League, but we have writer, artist, and creator Daniel Warren Johnson on this one, and we have Mike Spicer on the colors and Russ Wooten on the lettering. So this book is really, really fun. It's Do a Powerbomb. It's going to be wrestling centric. It's about generational wrestling. There's this female wrestler who's kind of moving up in the ranks. It looks like she's kind of won the title at the moment. She's like an undisputed champion right now. She's at another title match, and things don't go according to plan necessarily. So this book is about her legacy, what happens next. She has a family, it follows them and their dreams and what their goals are. And what's really fun about this book is there's a demon element. So it's a Daniel Warren Johnson book. There's going to be some kind of a demon threat, some kind of a monster threat, something that he does really, really well. I love the way that he draws those kinds of things. If you ever read Murder Falcon, it's kind of in that same vein. So this is a story about an up-and-coming female wrestler. She gets an opportunity to perform her skills in front of an unlikely crowd full of different demons and whatnot, trying to win the ultimate tournament so she can get back something that she lost in her past. So I really love the story in here. Obviously the art is killer. It's a very easy to understand premise, but it's just got enough twist in it to keep everything extremely interesting. So I do like that. Do a Powerbomb. The coloring and everything is crazy, incredible in this book. I love all the contrast. I just love that art style. I think those two work very, very well together. Again, this one has the potential to be something really special. So I would pick this up, especially if you like books like Crimson Cage. If you're a wrestling fan, I think you need to be jumping into this book for sure. It's got a little bit of that background locker room stuff that you might like in wrestling, but it's got a compelling, heartfelt story built behind it and a little bit of chaos and demon stuff mixed into it. So it's a really, really great, well-rounded book. Lots of stuff going on. Check out Do a Powerbomb. It's a great read. The next Image book we read was A Town Called Terror. This is issue number 3 from Steve Niles and Sisman Kudransky, I think is how you say it. And I feel like I can just record myself reviewing issue number 1 and number 2 perhaps and just hitting replay every single time I do this because it's the same strengths and it's the same weaknesses every time. They have a really interesting premise, a really great story, and an amazing art team in this book. I would say the only drawback right now is every issue feels a little bit too short. It doesn't feel like it was meant to be single issues. It feels like it was meant to be a big trade issue. And so it kind of suffers from that, I think. But It does not take away from the overall story or art premise at all. So I wouldn't let that be a factor for you to not get this book. Basically, we have this town called Terror. It's a hidden town, kind of right out in the open, kind of like a Wakanda situation. It's there, but you can't perceive it from the outside. It is run by demons, presumably the devil himself. The devil's son was able to escape this society and kind of live out his life, but he's being pulled back in basically to help his father with some family emergencies, and now he's kind of getting reacquainted with the local scum and things like that. And he has to make a decision whether or not he wants to help his estranged father with this task or not. So I like all the dialogue. I like all the interactions he's having with all these weird people in the society. I like the fear that he brings out of people when people realize who he is and what he's capable of doing, because they all know who he is. He's pretty famous. So I do like all that. It's got amazing art as well in here. And to keep up with the themes, I'll give you a little flash of some of the art that you can expect inside of this book. And it is pretty interesting. It is very, very dark. There's some interesting coloring in here. It's mostly reds and things like that, but it does seem to work. So I'm going to flash a couple pages here and you can kind of get an idea of what you're in for with this book. Again, it's mostly blacks and reds, but it's actually symbolizing just the chaos and the hell type aspect of this town called Terror. And that's really cool. So now there's also a missing persons element on the outside of this. Again, he was trying to get out of this society, trying to get out on his own. He's starting his own family. So we have all these outsiders trying to figure out where he might be as well. So they're going to bring in that element into future issues, I would imagine. So Town Called Terror, I don't see it wrapping up anytime soon. I need to see how many issues this is actually going to be. We're on issue number 3 so far. And I don't see an ending close in sight, but we'll see where it goes from here. I'd say it's a great read. I'd check it out. And the last book we read this week was Grimm issue number 2 from Stephanie Phillips. And the art was from Flavino and Rico Renzi. I hope I didn't butcher those names too much. So this book is pretty much like issue number 1 in the sense that I thought the tone and everything was going to be a little bit different, a little bit more mature, maybe like a Sandman kind of a tone. I didn't quite know exactly what I was going to get into, but the book was called Grimm, and I had all these expectations of it being a certain way, but those expectations weren't exactly met. But the art style and the tone and the overall story has like a little playfulness to it that I do appreciate, and it does work from time to time inside of this book. The art is pretty interesting. There's a record store and there's different rooms and things like that that they portray in here. There's almost like a Tim Burton-esque feel from time to time, which I do like when I see that. Our main character, Adria, she's in here trying to discover more about her own past. Everybody else around her knows how they died, but she does not. It's kind of a big mystery right now. And so she's trying to uncover the truth related to that. She also just developed some kind of power when she was out in the real world, bringing back this soul that she was trying to bring through the River of Styx. She displayed a power that she shouldn't have. So there's a little bit of mystery about that as well. That was from issue number 1. So we have a few things going on. We have this unexplainable power that she came up with. We have the fact that she doesn't know how she died, and she's just trying to traverse this landscape that she's in with these other mini Grim Reapers right now. So again, there's a lot of things happening inside of this book. There's a lot of different ways it could go. Art style is pretty charming and more cute-ish than I thought it was going to be, but I do like what I'm seeing so far. It's not blowing me away just yet, but Grimm number 2, let me know what you guys are thinking about it down below. So guys, that's what I read and that's what I thought. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please let me know what you guys thought about your books this week and what was your pick of the week. Put it down below in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell notification to be alerted of future videos. We will see you guys in the comments.